Hey, Rebel Bankers, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris Naugle, and with me today is someone that's going to really blow you away with his story and what he's doing. We got Brandon Elliot with us, and Brandon does some really unique things that I'm going to let him tell you about, but these are some things that he does that is very different than anyone else. I've heard his story a little bit, and I think it's a lot like my story. It's actually maybe even a little worse. So I love that. I love the fact that we're going to hear from him about his story, where his business is today. But let's talk a little bit about you and your journey. So no matter where you're at in your journey to being successful real estate investors or whatever it is you're trying to do, you're going to come into things you need to overcome. And one of them is always going to be money. Money is going to be one of those things that you're always going to struggle with a little bit in terms of how do you get enough? Where am I going to find money? And I hear it all the time from real estate investors. Like, I've got a deal, but I don't know how I'm going to fund it. Well, this show is for you. And this show is all about you becoming a rebel banker. And you got to start somewhere. That's the biggest thing, and I can't stand it. I don't want you to be one of them. The people that say they want to do something and they never do anything different in their life to get there. You got to take a step. You got to take a leap, and you got to get started, and that is the only first step that you should care about, because it's the only one I care about for you. And if that first step is just educating yourself, grab a copy of my book, The Private Money Guide, or check out any of our other episodes, including this one, because this is going to blow your mind. So let's just jump right into this. Brandon, tell everybody a little bit about where you're at in your business today, and then we're going to take a trip back in time and talk about your not so glamorous past. But let's talk a little bit about your business today.
Sure. Yeah. Chris, first off, I appreciate you for having me. I mean, I'm super excited to be on here and give back to the listeners. So basically, I'm originally from New Jersey, and I got started in the real estate game out here just by surrounding myself. I was doing door-to-door sales, and I got recruited. I was selling vacuum cleaners, Kirby vacuum cleaners.
Yes. Love those things.
So I was good at that. Also, my previous history with sales experience, we could talk about that in a minute. It allowed me to do well in that. I got recruited into a real estate investment company, and we were focusing on NODs, notice of defaults, pre-foreclosure properties. I got a little bit of education, but a hell of a lot more motivation. And basically, I started doing my own education on the side. I didn't know about coaches or mentors. So all the books I could get my hands on, YouTube and podcasts just like this helped me out tremendously. Awesome. So, at this point now we do buy and holds over in the Midwest. That's my bread and butter, passive income. There's no such thing really, in my opinion, as passive income to a certain degree, unless like you're born with, money tossed down to you. But
wait, Brandon, you're telling everybody there's not an easy button they could just hit like Staples?
Yeah. No, you definitely need to put in the work for it. But the education will bring the confidence, and then you really just need to take action and overcome some things. So we do the BRRRR strategy, which if you're not familiar, it's buy distressed properties, do the full renovation on it, make it brand new again, rent it out to a well-qualified tenant, and then take it back to the bank to refinance, and then afterwards repeat that process. So our whole goal is to have no money into each property, still cash flow, and be fully remodeled. We do our own property management over in those properties. Virtually, this is all about 3,000 miles away. We're in New York now as well, Ohio, and then we do fix and flips out here locally. So we have a podcast called
Brandon, where is locally? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but where are you living now?
Yeah, locally is San Diego for us.
There we go. Beautiful San Diego.
Yeah, originally from New Jersey, but out here in San Diego is the beautiful, less chaos than back home. So yeah, we have a podcast. It's called Ready, Set, Go Real Estate Investing. And yeah, we've been helping out a lot of people through that. We do one-on-one coaching, group coaching as well, and then author of Action Driven. I actually want to give it away to your audience, anybody that's interested. You guys can get your free copy just checking out the website, BrandonElliottInvestments.com. There's a little section for contact, and I made it geared for you guys. Just ask for the free book, and I'll send that out to you guys.
Yeah, we're going to find a really cool way to do a little giveaway for that book on Facebook. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically tell everybody to remember one key thing about this podcast. And whoever sends the most interesting thing that you get out of this, because there's going to be a lot of those, then we're going to give that book away that way. How's that sound, Brandon?
Ooh, I love it. That sounds great.
All right. So now there's going to be a lot of people watching this or listening to this podcast, and they can't see the screen because they're just listening. And I got to say, you look pretty young, Brandon. How old are you?
I'm 29.
You are young, 29 years old. So everybody that's listening to this, I don't know how old you are or how young you are. Like, this guy's 29. So if you think it can't be done because you think you're too young and too inexperienced, yeah, well, you should probably check this out on YouTube and look at this guy because he doesn't even look like he's 25. Kudos to that, man. All right. Well, let's do this, Brandon. Let's take a trip back in time. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in real estate. And I know you mentioned that a little bit, but talk about your first couple deals, how you found money for them. How did you get this start in this business?
Yeah. So the first couple deals, basically I was doing that education 4 hours a day for 2 years. I was working 2 restaurant jobs as well, trying to save up money, also pay off debt because of my crazy past. And basically I kept on getting bought out by real investors with all cash, no contingencies out here in San Diego. And basically I started looking into other areas. I was looking in other states. I found Ohio and a lot of things seemed to cash flow. So then I started looking around, just natural things that I would look for as far as job growth, population growth, and then something unique about the area. And this particular area had a famous Catholic university that just announced the semester before that they had no more housing available for the students for juniors and seniors because they were growing so fast. So all my properties are conveniently now located about a half mile away from that university. So good walking distance for a lot of the students. Basically I found myself, I saved up $35,000. I ended up purchasing 2 properties, hard money. And then I utilized credit at 0% interest credit cards to be able to complete the remodels on both properties. And then I took it back to the bank to cash out refi. I did it the traditional route because I had job history and they were cash flowing assets. So they based it off the property, thankfully, as well. Mm-hmm. And I was able to have no money into either of them. The mortgages, both of them were, the second one was a triplex. So the mortgage for that was a little higher, but it brought in a lot more as well. So it's pretty good. Right around $200 to $500 are my mortgages. And they bring in anywhere from $800 to $2,100.
That's awesome. So just you went through that quick on how you structure that. Let's take them back and let's give them a step by step because we don't ever do that. We're always on this podcast talking about how these deals get done, but I don't think we've ever really broken it down.
Sure.
So let's take that deal. So the very first thing, you found a good deal and it made a ton of sense, but then you had to figure the money out. And I think I understood you correctly. You'd saved up $35,000, but that wasn't enough to do the whole deal, right?
No.
Right. So you went to, why don't you just explain that? So the hard money to the personal capital to the credit cards, just break it down for them step by step. Because I know that's something you're super good at doing.
Yeah. I do specialize in simplifying the whole aspect of real estate because a lot of people out there are definitely complicating it more than it needs to be. And at the end of the day, it's you don't need to worry about the money right now. You don't need to worry about, analyzing a deal or dealing with your contractors, paperwork with contractors. If you don't even know your location or even before that, not even knowing the strategy that you're going to utilize. So there's, step one is always figuring out your strategy that you want to implement. And I mean, there's 30 plus ways to be able to make money in real estate. So really just going through that and seeing, doing a little bit of education on each one, see what you resonate with, what your time allows, your situation, your family, resources around you, and finances as well. At that point, once you're very clear on it, I would just highly recommend doing nothing but that particular education, really laser beam focus on that. And afterwards, figure out that location. So the job growth, population growth, and something unique about the area, you can check out websites like citydata.com is one of my favorites, but also census.gov or bestplaces.net. These are all resources that you can do to really dive deep into the location. Once you're very clear on the location, you know what the rents go for with like Renometer, or reaching out to property management companies, really understanding your area, then it's all about building the relationships. So diving deep into everybody and anybody that you can network with to let them know exactly what you are actually truly looking to accomplish in this area, and seeing who they have that could be beneficial to add to your team, or if they can assist in any way to actually, feeding the fire of what you're accomplishing within this area. The relationships has always done me super well. And anytime that I've gone outside of utilizing my relationships within the area, it's always bite me right in the ass. So my first deal, I ended up having a lot of issues with contractors.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah.
Nobody has problems with contractors.
So it's commonly heard, like throughout all investors, like you hear the issues with contractors, and all the books, all the podcasts, like all the beware signs that I read and that I was fully aware of, I still just walk right into it because, the education can bring you maybe 50, 60% of the way there. Maybe, right? But then at the end of the day, like the stupidity or like the stubbornness, or I don't know what the hell it is, but
anxiousness and just the excitement to get going.
The excitement. Yeah, 100%. And at the end of the day, like you might know it yourself, but then when you're starting to interact with somebody else that seems, reliable, seems like a good guy, long story short, I went through 5 contractors. I should have sued at least 3 of them. And this project, first one, it should have took no more, at the most, like 2 months to remodel. It was all cosmetics. It took 1 year and 2 months.
Oh,
yeah.
Ooh, yeah, your carry cost. That's all I'm thinking.
So the carry cost, yes, but more importantly, the overall just getting screwed over, and the time it took, just having to redo work, paying more than what I should have, the list goes on. Contractors saying they did the work, took a picture of, another job or some other BS. And so I made every mistake under the sun. And then after that, and by the 3rd or 4th contractor, I really started realizing like, hey, I already got screwed over on the cash side of this. I'm only paying with credit cards now. And if you don't do the work, I'm going to call my credit card company and I'm going to request my money back because you didn't do the work. It's like a little mini court case. So that has helped tremendously.
So what's it take to find an actual contractor that accepts credit cards though?
So that's the thing. It might be, I think I would say more professional ones, like not like the really discounted ones are going to have that opportunity unless they're hungry for it. If they're hungry for it, then you can educate them on like, hey, this is what you need to do. These are the banks with the best rates or whatever. Like 9 times out of 10, they're just going to be frustrated with the processing fees. But at the end of the day, that's all negotiable. If they're really not, allowing, like they don't want to pay the fees, then see if you can break it in half and split it half and half with them, or just suck up the cost and pay those fees. But at the end of the day, you have that, you're buying insurance pretty much, knowing that you're not going to get screwed over. Plus, you're racking up a bunch of points. So after each remodel, I have enough points that I can typically go on a nice vacation with me and my better half, wherever we want.
Dude, that's a really good idea because you're sitting there talking about like your horror story with the contractors. And the first thing that's going through my head is, man, you're not special. Like we all have these stories. We all have these nightmare stories with these contractors. Then all of a sudden you flipped it on me and like, you're like, all right, so here's how I solved it. I just started paying by credit card. And when they don't pay, I just go back to the credit card and say, hey, they didn't finish the work, and the credit card company will literally oh man, that's a really good idea. I like that. Plus, let's keep going with this credit card thing for a second because I'm going to go off topic here a little bit, but like this is interesting. And I don't know about my audience, but I think my audience is going to love this because this hasn't been talked about. Using credit cards, sure, we talk about it for materials, but never for contractors.
Yeah. So it's super powerful because at the end of the day, like my passion is real estate, but as I started utilizing credit, it like quickly became just super passionate about both because the power that you can do with your own credit, like nowhere else in the world is there so much, just like so much favor with credit within your life that's easily accessible. And a lot of people out there are really giving those excuses about the money. And that's how like I got more into the coaching side, showing people how to do this because the money is like the last thing you need to worry about. If you get a solid deal under contract, then, you know, it's not, the money will show up. You just got to get it out there. But basically with the credit hacking and credit game, you know, we're getting very big credit lines. We're getting multiple credit lines. You know, we're getting free flights, free hotels, status matching, upgrades. You know, the list goes on. There's a lot of awesome benefits to it, but I naturally got into it just so I could not have to, so I could sleep well, knowing that I'm not borrowing other people's money, especially in the beginning when I wasn't as educated. And I was learning all these learning curves in the beginning, especially with that first deal. You know, if I was borrowing somebody else's money, that would have messed up my sleep on a regular basis. It was already tearing up my sleep. But
you didn't get into real estate to get sleep, did you?
No, I quickly realized sleep wasn't an option. Sleep is for the poor in my eyes now. So basically, you know, I started diving into how I can protect myself and what needed to be done to be able to pull off these deals and to get them funded correctly, but also have protection because I kept on getting screwed over. So there's a lot of tips and tricks behind it, especially just educating yourself on how credit works, how you're getting judged by creditors, and like your 6 boxes that they're looking at to really make sure that they're all in, you know, the green status, all thriving.
And wow, well, we're going to get to that in a bit and how we can learn more because you got me there. I'm like, okay, how do we do that? And then you just like, is that intentional, Brandon?
It's a teaser. Yeah, it's a teaser.
There's you just leave us and they're like, wait, what?
At the end of the day, there's so much behind credit that I think it really does start off with like, you got to understand the basics. Before you understand the basics, like you're not going to be able to, and the basics will take like 30 minutes to an hour by itself. And it's literally just geared towards like understanding how you're getting judged by creditors. That's a process by itself. Afterwards, figuring out what you truly want to, like your end goal. Mm-hmm. So you can actually start focusing on that avenue, because if you're focusing on one section, it might actually counteract some of the others and take you longer to be able to hit your end goal. So
I love it. Love it. So in your journey, like we went back to the beginning, we talked about those first couple deals. We talked about your contractor problems and then how you kind of have solved that. So in this journey, like how many years has this gone on? Like from beginning to, because you're 29 now, how long's it been?
Yeah. So I started when I was 25. So it's been 4 years now. Yep.
4 years. And like, what's your real estate portfolio doing now? Like, cause you mostly do burrs, correct?
Yeah, I do. So we're actually in the season of like lending money out. I go through different periods that I'm buying heavily, and then otherwise I'm slowing down. And so yeah, basically right now I'm in the season of lending out money and utilizing credit 0% interest for 18 months, and I'm lending it out on short terms, like 3 months. At high interest rates to make my money work hard for me, or make my credit work hard for me.
Smart.
But yeah, we have 13 properties now. And then,
and where are most of them? San Diego, but you got some.
No, I would have been retired. No.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was thinking. I'm like, he's got 13 and we're always talking to people with 4,300, but 13 in San Diego, dude, man, you're doing well.
No. So it's all a hustle and grind every day. We are full-time, so we are blessed, but it is all geared. Mostly our portfolio is in Ohio. And then, like I said, we have a property in New York, and then in the sticks, not in like the city. And then we're doing the fix and flips locally here in San Diego. Nice. And that's more just for like the lump sums.
So in this long 4-year journey that you've had, like what are your biggest obstacles? Let's talk about an external obstacle that you had to overcome in your journey.
Yeah. Possibly just a lot of it was mindset for sure. Originally I was going to get my realtor's license. I like took all the classes, paid the fees and stuff like that. I didn't actually finalize it to take the test. And it was simply because I acknowledged that I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I thought I was, I don't ever want to show a property. I don't ever want to like help people buy properties unless I want to be strictly on the investment side. And I realized those are two completely different roles. And I was really doing that because I wanted to get the credibility of like, knowing what I was doing. But the more education, the more properties I was picking up, the credibility came naturally. And it's not really about like your status or credibility. Like I could care less about that, but it's more about the relationships and educating yourself to be able to bring up that confidence.
That's pretty good. And so that was kind of like a mix of an internal and external, but like, what are the things over let's just talk about your first 5 deals. Okay. Cause it'd take too long to go through the rest, but on those first 5 deals, what is the biggest change in your life? Like what has changed the biggest because of those first 5 deals? How did it improve? Did it improve you as a person? Like, what's been the transformation?
Yeah, after that 3rd deal, I believe the confidence started building up. And I always believe like the first 3 are definitely something that will be a little rocky. You're going to have a lot of learning curves in the beginning. Not saying that I don't go through learning curves now. I still do. But I feel like that first 3, there's a hell of a lot more nervousness. So once I accomplished that, I was like, okay, I've been through the process a few times. I have the relationships built. It's starting to get, the chaos, especially the chaos for me in the first, 1 or 2. It was crazy. It was just.
It's a nightmare.
So once I overcame that stuff, then it was like everything else was a breeze, and it started just building up that momentum. I ended up picking up like 4 properties within a month. Shortly after that 3rd one, and it just all started like domino affecting.
That's killer. And we're going to do a little bonus round here because like, I was like just looking at it and I'm thinking, you know what we didn't talk too much about? You do a lot of this virtually. You live in San Diego, but you've got houses other places. Like talk a little bit about like that. Cause that's not something a lot of people are doing. You're running your operations virtually. So give us some tips on that.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more simple than people make it seem to be. It's hard for a lot of people out there to wrap their heads around it, but I think it all just happened for a better reason because I'm naturally a controlled, like hands-on type of person, and at the end of the day, because I'm virtually 3,000 miles away, I don't have that ability to be there. If it was locally, I would have been there every single day probably. I would have wasted so much time and I wouldn't have been able to scale as quickly as I have. So I think that's a huge blessing. But it's really just about staying organized and the relationships of having people that you can know, like, and trust and count on. And also really just being able to lead them in the correct direction. Having everybody on the same exact page of what needs to be done. Like, I don't need to show a property I do my own property management as well. So, I'm not trying to waste my time of having an open house or showing properties. Like that's almost a realtor's job in my opinion. So instead I get really good relationships with my contractor or handyman that, that can play almost both roles, and I can pay them $35 an hour, which is good, to be able to handle some of those things. And it saves me the flight, saves me the time. And because I'm doing my own property management, I'm saving like a little over $1,000 at this point every single month by not having my own property manager. And the property is already fully remodeled. I get a really amazing tenant in there. I'd rather have a vacancy longer, just to make sure I'm getting the cream of the crop tenant in there. And over time, I built a strong list of like questions to ask and really dive deep into it. But I've also been through the traditional banking side and hearing all the questions and craziness and all the paperwork they make you fill out. So I just gear it very similar. You know, I'm not as strict and I'm very reasonable. I mean, my past, just growing up, I was on house arrest and a bunch of other crazy things from doing things.
Yeah, we can get into that glorious past.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like I have 2 felonies and a misdemeanor. So it's not the most sexiest thing, but I changed my life and I believe in second chances for people. I don't believe, you know, everybody's maliciously like out to do the worst things in the world, but without the right guidance, you know, I think it's very easy to get, pushed into that kind of path. So there's a bunch of things that kind of pull together in it, but I would definitely recommend like relationships, number one, and then just staying organized and having like a breakdown from beginning to end of what needs to happen in certain stages.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And so you do a lot of things, you do a lot of virtual stuff. This credit card thing's got me fascinated because like, I just love that. And I think, you know, if you've got that past, so your credit probably got hit a little bit. So you were able to like literally fix that, build that, get that to the point now where you've got enough to pay for renovations with credit cards. And I bet you there's a lot of people that watch this would love to know how to do that because, hey, who doesn't like a free vacation or an upgrade to first class, right? Does everybody on this show like that? I do. So
yes.
Why not pay for your renovations with credit cards? You know, I thought I was doing it right, paying for all the materials and all that stuff. Hell, why wasn't I paying the darn contractors with it? Because then when they don't do their job, I'm just like, hey, Mr. Credit Card Company, yeah, this guy didn't finish. Can you back charge him? And they do, where it doesn't happen that way for a check that you write or cash that you give them. Don't ever give contractors cash just for the record.
Yeah, and don't give them upfront especially. That's the worst thing to do.
Absolutely not. So if people wanted to learn about this stuff from you and they wanted to learn more about what you do, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me, BrandonElliottInvestments.com. Otherwise, Instagram, Brandon Elliott Investments, and then Facebook.com/BrandonElliottREI. Otherwise, you guys can reach out to me as well, 609-231-9018. We hold a webinar every once in a while just because, you know, I don't have all the time in the day I was doing this for a while, giving, you know, about an hour to everybody that was interested. But then I realized people are getting results from it, but it's taking up too much time and I'm not helping the mass. So now we're doing a little bit more webinar series of it to help out as many people as possible in one place. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really, there's a lot of sites. I'll give you, if you're having issues with like anything negative on any late payments or derogatory remarks, collections, I would recommend checking out cfpb.gov. You can submit your claims there. It's a faster way to get things resolved. Also, uscreditcardguide.com. That site will help you really break down the credit cards that you're looking for and the application process, the bonuses at the time, what's lucrative. Those things are super helpful. You know, in the beginning, I never had any issues with my credit. I just wasn't maximizing it like a lot of people out there to really take full advantage of it. But, you know, I was able to take full advantage of it once I started getting more educated and really started pushing it to the limits by having everything in good status. So if you're already in good status and you have financial awareness, your budgeting is on point, stuff like that, then you really just need a little bit of education to push your credit to the limit to do some phenomenal things with it. But building up big credit lines, having multiple credit lines, I wouldn't disagree with you at all when you know you're paying for materials yourself. I would still do that and pay your contractors for labor separately, because on the business side of credit, you can start claiming all these different companies as additional trade lines, which is super helpful. So there's so many. I wish I could go into it like for days and days with you, because I am very passionate about it, but it's just like there's so much behind the scenes. There's a lot.
All right. Well, you hear it. So if you guys want to learn how to do that, use your credit cards, maximize them, and put your contractors in check so that if they don't do the work, you're just going to call the credit card company. Then that is how you do it. Get a hold of Brandon for that. And also, remember earlier we talked about his book. You got your book handy right there?
Yes, sir. Action Driven.
Action driven. So he's going to give a copy of this book away, and all you have to do. So through this whole podcast, you have to remember the one best part about this entire podcast. And what you have to do is on the post, when this episode goes live and you watch it, post it right at the bottom as a comment, or DM me or DM Brandon, and let us know what the best thing is that you got out of this podcast. And the best answer is going to get a copy of that book, and Brandon will mail it to you. So with that being said, Brandon, thank you for your time, dropping some serious golden nuggets here. And for all of you, the same goes for you guys. Make sure you get started in your journey. It's the biggest thing. It's just don't sit around waiting for something to happen. Go out there and just make it happen. It's just, there's enough talkers out there. There's enough people on social media saying, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that, like the flash. Half of them are doing nothing.
Yeah.
Half of them are just basically fronting, doing absolutely nothing, and don't be one of them. Take action, get things done. He did it in 4 years. How many years can you do it in? How many years can you do a full life transformation in? Real estate can be that way to do it if you learn how to do it right. So get started on your journey. Grab a copy of my book, The Private Money Guide, to teach you all about money, where all the money is for all the deals you're ever going to want to do, and how to get that money coming to you without asking. That's the whole thing. And thank you for joining us for another edition of the Real Estate Money School. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye, everybody.